It's true. We all want what we can't have. And once we've had our eyes set on something for a while, we've wanted it and we finally get it, it does tend to become less valuable to us. We tend to reduce the value of those things once we've gotten them. So the forbidden fruit, that thing that you're not supposed to consume to have, you just seem to want it even more. But once something's readily abundant to you, it's almost as if that thing loses its importance, loses its value. So this whole concept around scarcity and scarcity driving up value, that's very true. And it's not just true for objects like, precious metals, diamonds. They're seen to be more valuable than most other commodities that we have in higher abundance on the planet, largely because they're scarce. If precious metals, diamonds, gold were much more abundant than they currently are, they wouldn't be seen as so valuable. So scarcity, value, you wanting something, that forbidden fruit, that's something that it just is what it is. And there's something about human beings where we tend to attribute more value to something that is more difficult to obtain. And people who are very manipulative, narcissists, people with narcissistic tendencies, they weaponize this concept to their advantage. They leverage it to their advantage. So the whole point around narcissists flooding you with attention, getting you interested in them, just to withhold their attention later, just to withhold their affection for you, and to pull off disappearing acts. All that is just there to make them scarce. So, but that only works if they got you interested in them first, if they got you acknowledging them, got you wanting them. Now, to really drive their value up in your eyes, they pull off all these, withholding acts, disappearing acts. They really make themselves scarce. So one reason that you find yourself desiring certain people, for example, narcissists, so much, is because they use your own basic psychological features against you by making themselves scarce in your eyes. And once they've made themselves scarce, once they've made you want them, desire them more, this gives the narcissist a lot of validation. It makes them very comforted in the knowing that somebody desires them as much as you do. And the fact that they can have such an impact on your emotions, it really gives them a sense of power and control over you. And it really puts them in a position of superiority over you, because the way they see it, you simply want them more than they want you. But of course, they would have created this dynamic through the initial love bombing and then the withholding, making themselves scarce in your life. And once you've been caught up in that, and you felt the unease of having them just not being reliable, not being in touch, not being engaged with you, sometimes you might find that you yourself might withdraw. You might refocus, you might recenter, you might detach emotionally. But of course, once you do that, once you've made yourself scarce, then your value is driven up. And then the narcissist finds himself chasing you. They find themselves chasing you because all of a sudden you might have other things going on for yourself. You don't need them anymore. There's not much of you being available to them. And then all of a sudden the dynamic shifts. And then they start chasing after you, trying to reel you back into their orbit. Sometimes you subconsciously play the same game, which is, if they withhold from you, at some level you think, well, I'm not going to keep chasing somebody who doesn't pay attention. I'm going to just go and do my own thing. But you're not doing it because you're gaming them. You're doing it because it's just your natural reaction. But then they see you as scarce and they see you as more valuable, and then they come chasing after you. So this whole thing about scarcity driving up value, narcissists and manipulators use that to their advantage a lot. And then once you detach yourself from them, the scripts flip, and all of a sudden they see you as more valuable. And if you were to entertain them again, it goes back and forth. It becomes a push-pull of each one trying to attract the attention of the other one back into their orbit, and then they withhold, they become scarce, and then vice versa. So it's a very unhealthy dynamic, as you can see. It might be interesting in the first round or two if it's something that you haven't really been through before, because it heightens your awareness, it heightens your sensitivities when you find yourself getting caught up in these emotional games with people. But after about round 2 or 3, it just gets exhausting, it gets old, and you just want nothing to do with it. So if you ever have gotten caught up in that dynamic, hopefully you would have come to the conclusion that it's not worth continuing it. And that's just a sign for you to really refocus on yourself, really recenter yourself, recenter your emotions, ground yourself again. And just start to expect nothing of this person and let them wither away from your thoughts, emotions, and your life. And then you start focusing on yourself, creating the abundance that you want, abundance and happiness, abundance and just good feelings, and just one step at a time, things start working out for you. So you don't want to keep people in your life who play these games with you. There are everybody has their own psychological mechanisms, features, sometimes even certain biases and flaws, and manipulators tend to use it against you. So when you get caught up in one of these games with somebody and they're just trying to get validation for themselves, it's time to cut your losses, cut them out, and just refocus on yourself. And most importantly, it's good to have the toolkit to know when these things are happening, so you'll know when it's time to detach. Yeah, so hope that concept is something that you'll think about if you ever get caught up in some similar kind of relationship dynamic.